And these are books that I wish I could just put in an IV and just let them go through my veins. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a video about 10 standalone books that I loved. I know it's so easy for us to start all these series and then you have to wait years, and maybe they're interconnected series or anything like that, but these are all standalones. And some of the ones I would have recommended started as standalones, but in the decades since have added to, like Brooklyn. I would have added that as a standalone, but now there's a sequel that just came out recently, so we can't add that one. Anyway, these, at the time of this recording, are all standalones. The first book is Stars Over Clear Lake by Loretta Ellsworth, and this is the only, I believe, I think she's a children's book author or a young adult, not even YA, I think like a middle grade author, and this is the only like adult book that she's written. So it's a historical fiction. It's set in World War II in the 1940s. And there is a lot of, as historical fiction is, but it is obviously based on a lot of true stuff. But a couple things I didn't know. So basically during World War II, there were German prisoners of war brought over to work on farms in the US, in the Midwest, in the US. And I didn't know that was a thing. So that plays into this story as a historical event. And then also the Clear Lake Ballroom. I can't remember if that's actually the name of it, but the kind of history around that ballroom and that event space, which is also very much known for the last place that like Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, the Big Bopper, they played, and then they left and then died in the plane crash. So that is a very well-known place that is also in this book. So those are kind of like a historical place, historical events that kind of surround this specific historical fiction. So Lorraine is living on the farm with her brother, her mom, and her dad, and her brother enlists very much to her mom's agony. The dad says, he's going to do it. He's going to do it anyway without us, so we should support him. And so the brother goes off and enlists. The dad accepts some of the prisoner of war, like from whatever program that's in, the prisoner of war's, German prisoner of war, to come and work on the farm because now that brother is gone, they're really struggling to like get help and everything. So, and also like all the men are enlisting and leaving. So they have, I think there's two young men that come work at the farm. And her mom is very upset with this. He's like, our son is out there fighting them and we have them here working on our farm, like around our daughter. So there's a lot of contention in the family about the war and the prisoners of war being there and their son being over there. That's like a really big conflict in the book. Anyway, so Lorraine kind of befriends one of the boys working on the farm. He's trying to like learn English, and so they kind of develop this friendship. The other guy is not, I think there might be 3 or 2, I can't remember, but the one guy is the main one that she makes friends with. And they kind of this family kind of gets to learn, the dad and Lorraine kind of get to learn that these are humans that were like caught in circumstance, maybe. They were just young boys in Germany that happened to be in this conflict. And then some other things happen to make the conditions around them being there much worse and much more confusing for Lorraine. But some feelings are developed between her and I can't remember his name, one of the boys. And yeah, obviously there's a lot there with her brother fighting on the other side of the conflict, him being there as a prisoner of war. And then there's a little bit of a love triangle situation with a boy at school that's very popular and is kind of like the ideal boy that every girl would want to go out with. So that's the gist of it. A lot of stuff happens, obviously, that bring all this to fruition. And it technically is a dual timeline, but there's very little of the like present timeline. Like it's not a even half portion of the book. So, but I absolutely loved this book. It is like heartbreaking, period. And then there's a lot of like very sweet, heartbreaking moments in the book. And I just absolutely loved this book. I had it and I let someone borrow it and then I never saw it again. You know, if you know, you know. You let someone borrow a book and then it disappears. So I did buy the ebook, but I am going to have to buy it for my shelf. Like and the cover is very cute. Yeah, I just love this book so much. I've reread it several times and it's a standalone, even though I wish it wasn't. I wish maybe we could get more from her in this story, even though it is a very well like wrapped up, encapsulated story. So we really don't, but I just love this story so much that I would love to read more about it, but it is a standalone and I loved it. Another great standalone is With Love from Cold World by Alicia Thompson. So this is a romance and it basically has such an interesting setting, I think, and the cover is so cool. I just love the cover. Don't judge a book by its cover. Well, we're judging here, but love this cover. And basically it's about Lauren, who is the accountant for this like winter themed place in Orlando. They have all those like really kitschy like attractions. I lived there for 7 years, so I feel like I can say that. Like these like really corny attractions that orbit all the big attractions that everybody else actually goes there for. But she's the accountant for this place, and it has like an ice rink. It has like a snow room. It's just like, the opposite of Orlando's weather. So Cold World is struggling to keep people coming in. So the owner asked Lauren and her coworker Asa, to come up with a plan, like a proposal to bring in more money, more people. And I think like the whole like company, the whole like place gets into like this competition. And so this turns into kind of like a rivalry between them where they want to come up with the best idea. And because of this, they have to kind of spend some time together. And this is definitely an opposites attract kind of enemies to lovers type of situation. Cold World itself is a character in this book. So you have these very much opposites attract. Asa has like blue hair. He's just very cool. Lauren is like much more uptight. She's an accountant. So definitely like the opposites attract is there for sure. And they're just so different and cute, but both have this love for Cold World. So they'll do anything to save it. And they like have this nice chemistry that builds and everything. So I love this one. One of my favorite books is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And this is basically about Ryland Grace, who wakes up. He's a sole survivor of a mission into space to like save humanity, to find the information to save humanity and to send it back to Earth. So turns out he's the sole survivor and he has very little memory of anything, the assignment or how to complete it, only that he is the sole like chance for Earth and for humanity to continue. So he has to start puzzling all the stuff together, trying to remember things, looking for clues, and figure out how to save humanity and perhaps save himself. He thinks he's pretty much a goner, but he thinks maybe if he can save Earth, it will be worth it. And he meets a very interesting companion out there in the middle of nowhere in space. And this book, Andy Weir is really good at doing like hard sci-fi with a heart, is what I call it. You like laugh, you cry, your anxiety gets really high, like you get all the gamut of emotions. And he makes hard sci-fi like very approachable and very readable and sweet and heartfelt. So this is honestly, they're making a movie out of it currently, I believe, and hopefully it's good. But it's so beloved and it's such a good sci-fi book, especially if you aren't into like super into sci-fi. Like this is like a perfectly encapsulated standalone. The next standalone is The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. And this is a time travel romance kind of mystery and thriller. So in this like near future London, they have figured out how to time travel. So to do an experiment on how, if this is really feasible for people to come from the past, they bring what they call expats back from certain points in time in the past. And they have to be that they would have already died. They would have died anyway, so it doesn't mess up with like the timeline and like ripples into the future. So one of our expats is Commander Graham Gore from like the terror expedition in like the 1800s, where everyone died of exposure and starvation. And he a real life person and a real life expedition. He died on that expedition. So in this fictionalized version of events, he gets brought into the future. And so these expats are being studied for mental, how they adjust mentally, physically, emotionally to the future to see if this is actually something that can be sustained. And to help them through this process, each of them gets assigned a bridge, which is a modern day person. And they have to live with them for a year and keep an eye on them and help them go through all the growing pains of the future. And they get scanned, the brain scans and all kinds of things. So they're basically being studied for a year. So our bridge, who we never learn her name, has to live with Graham Gore and, explain electricity to him and cars and all these different things. And of course, there could be no nefarious means behind this project, right? No, it's completely on the up and up. So as they get to know each other and maybe some feelings developed and, maybe they smell a rat here or there with this kind of whole project that's going on. I don't know. So yeah, there we go. That came out last year. I read it early this year. It was my first 5-star read of 2025. And there's other aspects too from different time periods and how they all become friends and they all rely on each other and they're kind of all in this together, even though they come from wildly different backgrounds and different times in history. It's just such a sweet book. I just loved it. I love a time travel romance. I love the terror and that whole disaster. I love that disaster. I've always been interested in that disaster. So having him brought in as a romantic lead, as a real historical character, was automatic yes from me. The next standalone that I love is November 9 by Colleen Hoover. And this is about Fallon and Ben. They meet in a restaurant on Fallon's last day in LA. She's a former child actress who has gotten a really bad scar in a fire. So it's kind of ended her career, unfortunately. So she's moving to New York to pursue stage acting. And Ben meets her on her last day. And they kind of have a good day together. And they agree, this happens on November 9th. And they agree every November 9th to meet at that restaurant. Yeah, but no contact in between. So they're just going to meet one day a year and just, they make this promise that they're going to meet up. And so starts this book where every November 9th they meet up. And a lot can happen in a year, as everybody knows. And they don't look each other up or anything. So their lives change wildly every time that they meet up. And there's initial attraction between them from the first day. So that grows over time, and there's a lot of complications. First of all, they don't see each other. They don't talk to each other for more than one day a year. They also live on different coasts. They have all kinds of personal issues. Yeah, that all plays into them seeing each other every year. That's all I'll say about it. But this actually made my books that'll make you sob. Books that will rip your heart out and make you sob, which I'll link above and below. This made that list because it rips your heart out constantly the whole time. And then when you think, okay, everything's fine, I can relax, boom, no, heartache and betrayal and it's so good. The next book is Final Girls by Riley Sager, and this is a horror. And basically, so what a final girl is in every horror movie, there's one girl that survives and she's the final girl. So Quincy is a final girl that went on a good trip with her friends, came back the sole survivor. And throughout history, there are several final girls. There's a group of final girls. And when they start dying or start being murdered, the rest of the final girls kind of have to band together to figure out who's hunting them down. Somebody's hunting final girls. And this was a definite 5-star read, 5-star horror read for me. Loved it. Not to be confused with the Final Girl support group, which I did not like. It's kind of a similar premise about final girls, but this is the one. If you want to read a book about final girls, this is the one to read, in my opinion. This was an amazing 5-star read. The next one is Would You Rather by Allison Ashley. And this is a romance. This is a friends to lovers, fake date, marriage of convenience, all those tropes. And fake date can be tough for me because I feel like it's so overdone. There's so many fake date books out there that I think it takes a lot for me to really like one now. So basically, Noah and Mia have always been friends. They're adults now, but they've always been friends. And Noah has always kind of had feelings for Mia, but he's never told her. Nothing's ever happened between them. Mia has an illness that she may need a kidney transplant for, and she loses her insurance. So Noah says, "Hey, let's get married, and at least until you finish college, because then you can keep insurance and then you can finish going to school." So she agrees. And, Noah's like, okay, well, I love her as a friend, but I also like have real feelings for her. So I think he's like all for this arrangement. Mia's a little more hesitant to kind of put this burden on him. But as feelings develop, Noah's kind of like, I've always felt this way. And Mia's like, it's not fair to be with you because I have this illness that I could die from. So I think it's a little bit more of a deeper fake date than I think we're used to reading. And I think that may be why it stuck out to me. I have to have some kind of something different with the fake date, something to elevate it rather than just fake date. And then we actually like each other and then we're together. So this was like a really sweet 5-star read. The next book is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, this is about 4 famous siblings that throw a massive party in their Malibu home, and stuff happens over 24 hours. And this party is to celebrate the end of summer, and this is all part of Taylor Jenkins Reid interconnected. It's a standalone. It's a standalone. But it is part of an interconnected universe. So it's a standalone. In a very subtle, interconnected universe, which I love how she's done that. But anyway, there's the siblings all in different stages of life, all different relationships with each other, and kind of all of their personal issues with each other and outside of their family kind of come to a head at this party. And yeah. It's crazy. It's so good. If you like any of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books and you haven't read this one, I mean, this is probably her this one and Evelyn Hugo are probably her 2 masterpieces so far, waiting for Atmosphere to come out in June. But this one was so great about sibling relationships, infidelity. It's good. It's good. Trust me. The next book is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is my absolute favorite Emily Henry book. I just adore it. It's back there on the shelf somewhere. So this is about Daphne, who is engaged to Peter. They're days away. I think this is her bachelorette party. This happens not joint. They're having separate bachelorette and bachelor parties, but on the same night. So very close to getting married. And Peter ends up telling her that he doesn't want to get married and he wants to be with his best female friend. That was not a threat, was very supportive and oh, we're going to be best friends. And now they're going to be together. So she's of course thrown for a loop. They bought a house together that he owned. So she's kind of nowhere to live. The thing is that the girl, Petra, also had a boyfriend named Miles. And now that she's moved out and taken her income with her, he needs a roommate. So Daphne moves in with Miles. And they are both nursing these heartbreaks, trying to put their lives back together. And so they end up becoming friends and maybe more. I don't know, but I just love it. And very well that somebody's going to come back around regretting things. So we'll see. I'll just leave it to it there. The last book on my list is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And this also made my list of books that will rip your heart out and make you sob, which again is below. And this is probably overall the heaviest book, I would say. November 9 is also very heartbreaking and a lot of drama, but Archer's Voice is more just deeply sad, I would say. But so Bree has a very traumatic incident happen in her life, and she moves to a kind of a small lakeside town in Maine. And she meets this kind of like the town recluse, Archer, who cannot speak and has had a lot of like, he cannot speak because of like trauma and like a traumatic incident and a traumatic injury. So yeah, they kind of find this friendship together. She wants to like, she sees something in him that they like people in the town don't, because he's kind of like, like a leper. Like they don't really avoid him in town. They don't talk to him. He keeps to himself on his little like kind of like estate that he keeps up. And yeah, they become friends, and more than friends, but both of them have a lot of trauma that makes it hard for them to be in a relationship, especially when the other person has so much trauma as well that they need to deal with. So yeah, it is a very deeply sad book about two people with trauma trying to like find love with each other. I don't know why I ended on this book, but it's a very good, solid standalone romance. So those are all the standalones that I just ate up. I just love these books. There's definitely more, but those are like the top 10 that came to mind. And yeah, in this world of like constant series, I feel like we need a one and done. Sometimes you just need a one and done, even if you kind of like wish there was more to them, but it's good. It's good for us to have a one and done. So that's all for this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and come hang out in our productivity and reading sprints that we have about twice a week. We'd love to see you in there. So that's all for me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.